This conference will now be recorded.
We're ready to begin.
2 minutes early, is that okay? Okay.
Well, up to you.
I call this meeting to order. First off, I would like to congratulate or thank everyone for coming tonight. Not congratulate, thank you for coming. We have a large group tonight, so with that, I believe that we probably have quite a few here to speak on a specific topic. And with that, I will allow public comment, but under these guidelines. The City Council and I wish to allow public comments during tonight's meeting. In doing so, the order must be preserved so that the meeting will be productive. All public comments on the agenda items will be taken during a specified public comments portion of the meeting unless otherwise noted on the agenda or allowed by me. To ensure that all interested parties have the opportunity to participate and to maintain order during the City Council meeting, the following guidelines apply to all public comments. At all times, I will preside over and control the meeting. Individual speakers may speak for 3 minutes. If I bang my gavel, you should stop speaking. You may ask for more time. Please do not simply repeat comments already made. If you agree with prior testimony, simply state so and move on to additional comments or information you wish for council to consider in the deliberation. A member of the public may not speak more than once during the public comment portion of the meeting unless called by me to clarify prior testimony. It is not the policy of the Mayor Pro Tem and council to engage in dialogue with the public during the public comments portion of the meeting. Rather, the public comments portion of the meeting is intended to allow the public to address the Mayor Pro Tem and council to provide input regarding the agenda item. All questions must be addressed to me, and I will refer the question to the appropriate person. No person may speak to the council that has not been called by me. All speakers that I call on must address the council from the podium. To allow the process of deliberations among council members uninterrupted, after the public comments portion of the agenda is closed, no further public testimony will be permitted. Persons yelling or otherwise addressing the council from the audience are out of order and may be removed by my order. I have the sole right to determine whether any person is out of order and subject to removal from the meeting. We understand that some of these issues may be emotionally charged. Please be respectful of others' opinions, and the outcome of this process will be more productive as we work together towards solutions that are best for all. Remember, reasonable people can disagree without being disagreeable. Thank you. Now, I would please like to call on Chaplain Myron Matson to lead us in prayer and the pledge.
Would you stand as able and join me in our invocation? Dear Lord and Father of all, we come to you this evening to ask your guidance as the Sedalia City Council, its Mayor, Pro Tem, administrators, staff, and members meet to hear about and discuss important matters that affect our community. We are grateful for their service to our citizens. We ask your protection for all of our first responders, police, fire, sheriff, and especially in the fire department tonight, those being recognized for 5, 10, and 15 years of service to our city. To those in the ambulance district, the EMTs, the hospital staffs, who all work 24/7 to serve and protect us, often at their own peril. We are grateful for the United States of America, our constitutional republic for which so many have fought and died to create and preserve for 247 years. We celebrate that creation today, as tomorrow is July 4th, the birthday of our country, and to remember what we enjoy and sometimes take for granted. As the saying goes, freedom is not free. We ask your blessing and protection for all of our military and civilians serving our country today, here and throughout the world, protecting our way of life from threats from without and, sadly, threats from within. And now as we leave this evening, please protect us and our loved ones. Keep us from harm until we meet again. And all this is prayed in the name of our risen Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Robinson? Yes. Oldham.
Yes.
Marshall.
Here.
Bogus.
Here.
Hiller.
Here.
Cross. Here. Foster.
Here.
Flint.
Here.
First off tonight, we have Service Award, and I would please like to call on Chief Irwin to come up.
If I could, please, good evening. If I could have Alex Rasmulski, Tony Turner, and Jacob Land come up. Ladies and gentlemen, the three people that you stand here this evening are celebrating their 5 years with the City of Sedalia Fire Department. Firefighter Turner was a 2016, was actually in our first inaugural Firefighter 1 and 2 program. The other two gentlemen standing with him were in 2018 graduates of our Fire 1 and 2 program. So to emphasize homegrown and the success of that program, these two gentlemen are standing in front of you are a testament to that program. They're all working hard on moving up in their respective fields to time and title drivers. They've taken their investigators classes. They've done everything. So in the short 5 years, I couldn't ask for anything better than what they've produced for us. And I congratulate them on 5 years. Thank you.
Yes, Our next service award will be presented by Chief Building Official Blake. If I could get Neil Harmon to come up here. Neil is celebrating 10 years today. However, he served over 24 years on the fire department. He is a certified electrical, mechanical, and plumbing inspector. He's been a great asset to our department. He's been a great mentor to me since I took over this job. He has a great rapport with the contractors. And we appreciate your 10 years, and I hope you stay for at least like 5 more. You good with that? No? Thank you to everyone. Next, I would please like to, the next item is approval of previous session minutes.
Motion approved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now we do not have any reports from special boards, commissions, or committees. We will move to roll call of standing committees. First, I would please like to call on Vice Chairwoman Tina Bogus for community development.
Thank you so very much. Tonight, community development has 3 items on the agenda. First item being presentation by Devin Lake on the lodging ordinance.
Good evening. So we passed our lodging ordinance almost 2 years ago, so I thought this might be a good time to do an overview of our inspections so far and go over what we look for. So you all passed this ordinance in September of 21. We have 9 lodging establishments in the city, a total of 646 rooms, and every year I inspect a minimum of 114 of those. So far in 2022 and 2023, those inspections have been scheduled with those lodging establishments. However, from now on, at the guidance of the state, they have requested that we do those unannounced from now on. So currently right now we have 5 passing lodging establishments and 4 that are under corrective action. Those that attend with me are my staff along with police, fire, and sometimes the state comes with us as well as the health department. And the state's expressed interest to me in using our inspections to use for their state licensing. So I am working with them to work towards that goal. Of course, our goal for passing this ordinance was to provide safe, clean, and nuisance-free lodging establishments for all those that visit our city. So kind of to walk you through what I do when I do an inspection. When I get there, the first two things that I request is the state lodging license and the city business license. I also request if they have any smoking rooms, because that is against city ordinance to have smoking in any lodging establishment. I then ask for a list of all the rooms with their status, whether they're clean, dirty, or occupied. And I inspect a minimum of 15% or 10 rooms, whichever is greater. I also ask for a long-term stay checklist. We have a portion in our ordinance that requires that they keep track of when those long-term stay rooms are cleaned, when linens are changed, when trash is emptied, etc. And then we also request the elevator report if they have one. On the public nuisance side, the police department usually accompanies me there. They ask for a random list of registrations, and they are looking for if the driver's license has been obtained and if the vehicle information is being obtained, including make, model, color, and license plate. And if the hotel has surveillance, they will sometimes look at that. Not all the hotels in town have it, but it is a portion of our ordinance that if the police chief does deem that it needs additional security, they can request that video surveillance be installed. And I don't see Chief. Oh, Chief is here. Would you like to come up and give them statistics about so far the call status from the police department since we've put this into action?
We really had three major offenders in a sense when we started with this. And looking and comparing their average calls for service per month and the nature of the calls that we have been seeing, two of those major offenders have drastically reduced the number of calls that we see. One of them we're still working on. But we are seeing a good trend. What we are seeing is also that the call types are less serious, and that they are increasing in the amount of times they call for help with complying with this ordinance.
So one of the things that we check is in regards to water supply. We want to make sure that there is appropriate tagging on the backflow prevention devices. Those have to be serviced annually and reported to Public Works, but we want to make sure that they're tagged properly. And backflow preventers prevent chemicals and debris from contaminating the city's water supply through siphonage or back pressure. And we also check for air gaps. Most of the time I need to check these mostly in ice machines. There's usually not ever an issue with a water heater, laundry, dishwashers, sinks, and then if they have garden hoses outside. This is going to be the individual room inspection, so the sanitation and housekeeping portion of the ordinance. So the first thing, when I walk into a room, the first things I'm going to look for is the walls, the floors, the ceilings, the baseboards, and that the doors are self-closing and that there's a latch provided. Here's some pictures of things that I've encountered. Left is just a stain on the ceiling. The right, a ceiling tile is missing. That's in a bathroom. Floor damage, dirty doors, dirty walls. We also look at the smoke alarms and the sprinkler heads to make sure that they're appropriately on the wall. People haven't removed the batteries or duct taped them. I see that a lot. And that there's an evacuation route. They're supposed to be on the back of the door, but at minimum, it at least has to be in the room, possibly in a drawer at the bedside table. Windows, sills, and curtains. We look for stuff like this that needed to be recaulked. Dirty window sills. Tables, desks, lamps, chairs, couches, and dressers. We look for dirty chairs, stains on the chairs, stains on the lamp shades. appliances. So on the far left, you see lighter fluid that was being stored inside a room. That's hazardous and is not allowed. In the middle picture, you see a crock pot and a griddle, also not allowed. You can't have any other heating devices or cooking devices inside a hotel room. Now on the right, that is a freezer drain that had been taped up and not cleaned. That's the inside of a microwave. And those are the racks inside a refrigerator that are cracked and rusted. It's the back of a freezer that needed to be defrosted. We find that a lot too. That's a PTAC unit that has a broken grill. And then this is probably one of the most neglected portions in lodging establishments is vents and filters. So the left and the middle are dirty, the right is clean, and those are the filters that you see in a PTAC unit that's inside the room. That is a vent above a swimming pool. It's another cold air return vent in a laundry room. That's a cold air return vent at the bottom of the floor. Looks like mold. I can't guarantee that's what it is, but it obviously needed to be repaired. Then we check ice buckets and the trays that they sit on, as well as the drinking glasses. And then the big thing is the beds. The beds, the pillows, the linens, all the protective covers, the mattress itself, the box springs, the headboard, and underneath and behind the bed. So that's some pictures of stained mattresses. The one on the bottom left, that's a ripped mattress. That's also not allowed. The left picture is a stained pillow. The middle one is a bed skirt cover, and the right is a stained box spring. Left is a broken box spring. The middle one is a stained sheet, and then on the far right, all of the box springs have to have fabric covers on the bottom. The wood cannot be visible, so that needed to be repaired. They're not allowed to be ripped like that. This is stained floors. We take the mattresses completely off of the stands so that we can see under the bed, as well as the box springs, if there are any. Those don't have box springs, but this is a headboard that has had a heat treatment applied to it to kill bed bugs, more than likely a torch. And then the bathrooms, we check for the linens, the bathtub, and the shower, including the curtain, the sink, the toilet, the exhaust fans have to be functioning, the GFCI outlets have to be functioning, the floors and the ceilings. And then a requirement is that the door must be able to be unlocked from the outside in case there's an emergency. So that's a bathtub, toilet, and not a clean shower. And then insects and rodents, if I do find them, more specifically bed bugs, I will check the adjacent rooms on each side, as well as the room above and the room below. So that is a bed bug exoskeleton. On the left, that's the bottom of a box spring that's been tipped up, and that's why you always want the cover on the bottom, because they get in those little cracks and crevices. They like to be in dark, warm places. The right-hand side, you can see two bed bugs there, and then the black that you see, that's tracking, which is another sign. Even if you don't see a bed bug but you see tracking, you know that there's been evidence of them. The left picture, that is a bed bug, to give you kind of an idea of how small they are. And then the right, that's just tracking. And then we go to the common areas. So we're looking for the proper storage of chemicals, the storage areas to make sure that storage isn't being put in front of sprinkler heads. We check all of the ice machines both inside where the ice would drop as well as up inside the dispenser. We always want to make sure there's a clear means of egress to anybody who's staying there, that all the exit doors are open. You can't have an exit door that's locked during business hours. All the fire extinguishers have to be serviced and available. All the smoke detectors have to be hardwired and battery backup, including in cooking areas, laundry rooms, hazardous areas, hallways. The fire alarm and sprinkler system has to be serviced and recorded, and the stairs, ramps, and railings all have to be in good repair. It's a picture of an ice machine with the access panel removed. This is a bug killer, but it clearly says on there for use in residential areas only. So everything that they use has to be commercial grade. In laundry rooms, the biggest thing that we find is lint buildup in the dryers. We also check for smoke detectors to make sure they're hardwired and battery backup. They also need to be using proper commercial cleaning agents for their laundry, and that the laundry chutes are closed and are at least 1 hour rated. So that is a commercial dryer that they had not cleaned the lint out of. Electrical hazards that we're looking for is appropriate plates, that there's no exposed wiring, that there's DSCI outlets within 6 foot of any water source and at all outdoor locations. The exit lights have to be operational as well as the emergency lighting. 2-prong receptacle appliances have to be in a 2-prong outlet. I'll show you a picture of interesting things I've seen on that. Temporary wiring, you can't use extension cords for permanent wiring. And then we always look at the electrical panel to make sure that they're properly labeled and that they're not obstructed in case the fire department had to disconnect any circuits. So the right and left are a 3-prong appliance that they decided to cut the 3rd prong out of to plug it into a 2-prong outlet. And then the middle is a broken plate. A little kid could probably stick their fingers up in there if they really wanted to, but it needs to be properly secured to the wall. We also look for missing light bulbs. And then the middle picture, that's a electrical panel. It does not have a label on the right-hand side on the cover, so that needed to be fixed. But this is a perfect electrical panel. You see on the bottom of the panel, there's blanks. That should be there. If there's an empty place, they have to put a blank over it so no one can stick their fingers in there. And then that's a nice typed up legend of what those circuits go to. On the mechanical side, we're looking for fuel-fired appliances. Anywhere there's a fuel-fired appliance, there has to be a carbon monoxide detector that's hardwired and battery backup, as well as a smoke detector. And the room that they are in either has to be 1 hour fire-resistant construction, has a supervised sprinkler system, or an automatic sprinkler head directly above the appliance. If they have a boiler, I have to see the certifications from the state. Water heaters that are greater than 200,000 BTU or 57.6 kilowatts, those have to be certified as well. I do look for the T&P valves to verify that the BTU rating is appropriate, as well as the PSI rating, and that there's a proper discharge piping. And then I also look for combustion air to make sure that there's enough combustion air in the room that it's in. And I check the combustion air more for obstructions, like bird nests and leaves, stuff like that. So that is an example of a combustion air that's not cleaned out properly. These are examples of T&P valves. So the left one doesn't have a discharge pipe at all. The middle one, where it discharges, it would discharge directly onto the water heater next to its electrical. So that could be a huge hazard. And then the right one also does not have a discharge pipe, and that T&P valve is on the top of the water heater. That is an appropriate T&P valve discharge pipe. It should be within 1 inch of the floor. The swimming pool, I'm looking for enclosures around it. Most of them are indoors. All of them inside city limits are indoors. But they have to have a self-closing door. The life-saving equipment has to be easily accessible, and that has to be a throwable device with a rope attached and a reaching device, which we also call a shepherd's hook. The signage has to be on the wall that says that there's no lifeguard on duty, and there has to be a first aid kit readily available. The pool and deck need to be clean, free of cracks, and the surface must be in good repair. I also look at the water clarity to make sure it's clear and I can see the bottom of the pool. There needs to be a boundary line between the shallow and the deep end. The steps need to be slip resistant and contrasting in color, and a handrail has to be provided. All the handrails and ladders have to be secure. All the drains in the bottom of the pool have to have an anti-entrapment device. There has to be GFCI outlets within 10 foot of the pool, and I also check the light fixtures and the vents. And there has to be visible depth markings on the inside and the outside of the pool. They also have to have continuous disinfection. They are not allowed to put chlorine tablets in the skimmer. That happens a lot. That can cause chemical burn if you're close to the skimmer, because that directly gets into the water. So if you have a child near there, they can get chemical burn from that. They also need to have a testing kit and log every day the date, time, pH, temperature, and free chlorine residual. And they have to properly store their chemicals in a pool room. So the left is a picture of a throwable device that does not have a rope on it, which isn't going to do a lot of good. I've found some of those where they have a rope and it's not even attached. But the left is where they fixed it, and now it has a rope attached to it. The second picture, that's an anti-entrapment device at the bottom of the pool. Third picture, that's a chlorine tablet in the skimmer. And the right picture is a picture of the stairs with their contrasting color and anti-slip. And then the last thing we do is we walk around the exterior, where we're just looking for property maintenance issues, same that we do on houses, windows and doors, the foundation, make sure there's no trash buildup, that the gutters and downspouts are properly working, the roof, soffit and fascia, protective treatment, the stairs, the porches, the decks and handrails, and any accessory structures that are on the site. So that's a supporting beam that's warped a little bit. That's an exterior PTAC vent on the exterior of the building, and then the right is a gutter that's been smashed to the point where it does not function anymore. And that is it. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
What is the time frame that you normally give to repair or replace?
So this year and last year, I let them request me to come back. So I give them a list of what they need to fix, and then they request me to come back when they get it fixed.
What have you seen as the normal time that they request you back? Is it taking a month?
Usually 30 to 60 days. But the state has requested me to come back in 30 days after the unannounced inspection.
To make sure that it's in progress, or to make sure it's complete?
At least in progress.
At your discretion.
Yes. Depends on how severe the issue is. Yep. Anybody else have any questions, comments? I think we've made a lot of headway. I think it speaks to our ability that the state is willing to accept our inspections for their licensing. So hopefully we can work towards that, and we have a way for us to investigate complaints now as well. So. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Item number 2. At the last meeting, a public hearing was held to hear comments about the appropriateness of annexation petitions for Cloverdale Park. No comments were received during the hearing nor since then. Now that the required time period after the hearing has passed, council can consider an ordinance to annex the property into the city. This is annexing Cloverdale Park.
Any council discussion? Seeing none, I would like to call for the reading of the ordinance, please.
Bill number 2023-113, an ordinance of the City of Sedalia, Missouri, approving and annexing an unincorporated area owned by the City of Sedalia, Missouri, into the City of Sedalia, Missouri, adjacent and contiguous to existing corporate limits of the city.
Second reading.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Bill number 2023-113, An ordinance of the City of Sedalia, Missouri, approving and annexing an unincorporated area owned by the City of Sedalia, Missouri, into the City of Sedalia, Missouri, adjacent and contiguous to existing corporate limits of said city.
Final passage.
Roll call?
Bliss,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Oldham,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Bogus,
Yes.
Hiller,
Yes.
Cross,
Yes.
Foster.
Yes.
All in favor?
Our third and final item tonight is a budget amendment calling for a resolution and an ordinance. Council approved the designation of a historical landmark site to commemorate the location of the George R. Smith College last December. Staff has obtained a marker and designated a park-like setting with benches and parking to appropriately display such a marker, explaining the significance of this site. The work can be performed internally with the cost of materials estimated to be $4,650. Staff recommends approval of a budget amendment to appropriate the funding for this project.
Any council discussion?
I would just like to say thank you to John and several other staff members who have seen that this gets off the ground and gets done. The community of Sedalia on the north side is grateful for that.
Any more discussion? No? I'd like to call for the reading of the resolution, please.
Resolution 2031, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Sedalia, Missouri, stating facts and reasons for the necessity to amend and increase the city's annual budget for fiscal year 2024.
Motion approved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes. Now I'd like to call for the reading of the ordinance, please.
Bill number 2023-114, an ordinance amending the budget for the fiscal year 2023-2024 regarding capital improvements, George R. Smith College historical marker.
Second reading. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Bill number 2023-114, an ordinance amending the budget for the fiscal year 2023-2024 regarding capital improvements, George R. Smith College historical marker.
Final passage. Second.
Roll call, please.
Robinson,
Yes.
Oldham,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Bogus,
Yes.
Hiller,
Yes.
Cross,
Yes.
Foster,
Yes.
Bliss.
Yes.
All in favor?
And that concludes community development report.
Thank you very much. I would now like to ask Chairman Oldham to please present public works.
Thank you very much. We have just a few items tonight, but several ordinances, but we'll start off with a presentation. Annually, we do a water and wastewater rate study, and tonight that will be presented by Burns and Mack. You guys have a study.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's my pleasure to be with you tonight. My name is Dave Nauman with Burns McDonnell, and it's been an honor working with your city in the preparation of a water and sewer rate study, and I'd like to give you a briefing of that this evening. We're going to cover a little bit of background information to help you have some perspective about what we see changing nationally in water and sewer rates, and also give you some perspective on where your utility rates sit from a residential point of view compared to other communities of your size or around Missouri. And then we'll talk about the study, how we approached it, what the recommendations out of that study are, and I'd be happy to address any questions you have along the way or at the end. So in terms of background information, one of the things that we track are the changes in water and sewer household costs nationally and how they've changed over time. And what you see here in the table are a series of indexes that we follow. The first one is a water and sewer index prepared by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It's the same organization that will tell you what the consumer price index is. And it will tell you over the last 20 plus years or so that household water and sewer costs have increased about 4.7%. The other indices here are either compiled by the American Water Works Association, specific for water or sewer, or the National Association of Clean Water Agencies, which is a sewer-only organization. And what you see is about 5% a year over the last 20 years is about the rate of change in household water and sewer costs. And that's happening in a time where we think about general inflation being about half that. There are some universal reasons why water and sewer costs are escalating faster than the Consumer Price Index. And one of those is that most revenue recovery mechanisms for utilities are based on volumetric fees. And as a general trend, residential or household water and sewer use has been declining as a function of improved efficiencies of appliances or low-flow fixtures. That puts pressure on your revenue. Inflation for utilities is a little different than what you see at the household level. You're driven mainly by labor costs, commodity costs, and the cost of capital projects, all of which have been under pretty substantial pressure over the last 2 years. Water quality regulations become more and more stringent, especially as your permits are renewed for your wastewater treatment plants or testing and capabilities improve over time. Those targets that we need to meet don't get any easier, and it's expensive to address them when they change. And the last issue is just aging infrastructure. Most utilities are dealing with a lot of underground pipe that is at or near the end of its useful life, and addressing that is a nationwide challenge as well. The next 3 slides will look at what an average resident in Sedalia pays for household water or sewer combined service, compared to some regional peers and then other utilities, communities around Missouri that are similarly sized. So the first thing we'll look at is a water customer. This is a 3,500 gallon per month user. And you can see at $23.29, it's a little less than the average of the survey population for the same amount of use in other communities. On the sewer side, a little bit different. Your sewer costs are a little higher than that average, again, compared to the same communities for the same amount of use for a residential bill. And this is the combined graph. So this will show you the combination of both water and sewer service, puts you right about average for the survey population. So now we'll talk a little bit about how we approach rate studies and what we see for your community. We approach rate studies in a 3-step process. The first step is financial planning. Right? We look at your existing revenue streams, compare that to future operating and capital needs, and evaluate the sufficiency of that revenue to meet future funding requirements. It gives us an idea of what the overall system adjustment may need to be in order to create the funding you need. Cost of service looks at the costs out of that financial plan and assigns them to classes based on how different customer types use your system. And then the rate design at the very end just takes into consideration both the cost of service perspective and the overall increases we think your utility needs to create an equitable financing plan. When we look at financial planning, it helps to have some guidelines on how we look at your costs and frame your cash flows. So the first thing that we try to do, and some of these are a matter of policy, but as best we can, we try to mitigate rate shock. So if we can implement a series of annual adjustments, usually that is more palatable than maybe one big one to cover you for 5 years. That's a community preference. Most clients we work with prefer to do that annually. Every now and then we'll have somebody that will want to look at rates once every 5-year period, and it generally means a big increase at some point. We want your utility to have adequate reserves. So for your operation and maintenance costs, we try to reserve at least 25% of those costs annually to give you liquidity that you need in the operation of your utility. Both your water and your sewer utility have outstanding debt. Debt service coverage is a measurement of how well your cash flows exceed that annual debt payment. So if your revenues less your expenses is exactly what your debt payment is, that'd be a ratio of 1. We are targeting a minimum of 1.1, and you have a city policy that is at 1.35, so a little bit above that. And then the last thing is just to provide the funding overall for each utility's capital and funding operating needs. A few key assumptions, and then we'll look at what our cash flows look like. So the master plan that was recently completed included growth in your community. We're assuming growth occurs. We've curtailed that in the rate study so that we're not counting too much on that growth in case it doesn't happen exactly when the timing might indicate. O&M, your operation and maintenance expenses are inflating at about 5% a year. A little lower for sewer because we hope with some of the improvements that are near term that it will help pull some of those costs down. we have pretty substantial capital investment needs on both sides. On the water utility, it's about $30 million between 23 and 2028. Most of that is in repair, replacement, or addition of water mains, as well as well rehab. On the sewer side, it's $88 million in total capital needs. You've got a system with 3 wastewater treatment plants, and they only work. And the bulk of that $88 million addresses the needs at your north plant, which are fairly substantial. And then along the way, we're also anticipating collection system improvements as well. We do have debt issuance that's proposed for both utilities, more so on the sewer side. We've tried to be conservative in what we think those future costs might be. So we're assuming a 4% interest rate, about the average long-term interest rate for municipal debt. But the city's evaluating state revolving funds as a way to help lower those costs that generally have more favorable interest rates. So we'll have 2 charts here that demonstrate your cash flows, and the bars represent annual expenses, the lines represent revenue. And so we'll walk through the expenses first. The blue is your operation and maintenance expense, and you can see that inflating at the 5% per year. Your outstanding debt is in red. And you can see over time that compresses a little bit. You do have some capital leases that are ending in 2027. We also have proposed debt. So this is the debt payment on new debt issues in the green, relatively small part of your overall cost structure. And then the yellow represents pay-as-you-go capital. Overall, over the next 5 years, we would estimate about 70% of the capital needs on the water utility are met through debt issuance and 30% through cash. The lines represent revenue or existing rates in the solid black line. You can see that there is some upward mobility or upward increase in that revenue forecast. That's the growth that I mentioned. But it's not enough to cover these annual cash needs. So 5% a year has been proposed. You've already adopted 2024. The 2025 through 2028 would indicate an additional 5% a year. It's very consistent with what we see happening nationally. On the sewer side, because of the size of that capital plan, the rate increases, unfortunately, are a little higher. You adopted a 9.5% increase in 2024, but you can see from 2025 through 2028, an additional 7.5% would be indicated. And again, if you look at the buildup of the bars, you can see the growth in the proposed debt in the green. That's the funding for the debt payments associated with your north plant renovations. There's a lot of numbers on this chart here, but I want to talk to you a little bit about how we took those system-wide rate adjustments and converted them to prices. And what you see on the right is a table of your existing water rates. They include a meter charge. The top 3 lines are the meter charges for your residential meters, and then you can see the commercial outside city pays 2.5 times those meter rates. And then you can see the volumetric fees, which are block rates. So the first 10,000 gallons of use per month is currently priced at $3.77. And then you can see as the blocks increase, the more that's used, the lower the price gets. That's a declining block rate structure. It's very common in the Midwest. And then you've got some municipal rates that are beneath that, along with your public water and sewer district. Overall, we're seeking a 5% per year increase in the rate design. Our cost of service analysis would indicate that the smaller users generally should get a lower increase, and the larger users would bear more responsibility. And it's reflected in the way we've designed the rates. The service fees or the meter charges are increasing at a small and nominal rate of 1.5% or so per year, and the volumetric fees are going up higher than 5% to compensate. And that's probably most easily demonstrated with a comparison of different types of bills. So we start with the residential bill, again, 3,500 gallons per month on row 1. You can see today that 2329 that we talked about in the regional bill comparison and how it changes over time. The change in dollars is tracked on line 6 for that residential account, and the change in percentage is on 11. And so you can see year to year, it's about $1 to $1.20 more a month for that 5% increase. And it's just a little under 5%. And again, cost of service suggested that that would be appropriate. Your smaller users would bear a little less responsibility for the increase. You can see as the type of customer increases, the commercial or a larger commercial or industrial accounts, the overall percentage change is higher. That again is consistent with what we see in cost of service. So your larger users are going to be footing more of the bill for the improvements that need to be done. Similar findings on the sewer side. Your rate structure on the sewer side is a little less complicated, but there is a base charge that varies by resident, commercial, or industrial type of account. There's a volume fee that everyone pays. It's the same charge. And you have excess surcharge rates for strength, but I don't believe anyone is currently paying those rates. We demonstrate them in the event you would have a customer that did. Again, cost of service is suggesting smaller users would bear less responsibility for the increase. And so that base charge is increasing about 5%, and the volumetric fees are increasing a little more than that to get you to the 7.5. The one difference here is that you can see the commercial base rate on line 2 in 2025 actually comes down, and that was based on some analysis that would indicate those are mostly very small accounts. Your commercial class is relatively small, and they're a lot more similar to your residential class than they are your industrial. And so we pulled that fixed fee down in 25, and then beyond that point, they increased the same rate as everyone else. And you can see again the impact on bills here. So again, you've got that 3,500 gallon residential user. It's about a $4 a month rounding a change per year to implement those additional 7.5% adjustments. But again, you can see that the larger customers, with the exception of commercial in 2025, will be paying more of the cost of the expansion and renewal of your sewer system. So that concludes, I know we went through that pretty quickly, that concludes our study and the recommendations that we have for the next 4 years. I'd be happy to address any questions you might have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. We're getting some static in the speaker. Are we able to hear that static that's happening in the speaker? Okay, thank you. All right, second item we have tonight is an annexation and utility service agreement with Ralph and Carol Craig. This property is located at 27833 Highway U.
Any council discussion? No? Call for the ordinance, please.
Bill number 2023-115, an ordinance authorizing an annexation and utility services agreement for connection to the city of Sedalia water distribution system.
Second reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Bill number 2023-115, an ordinance authorizing an annexation and utility services agreement for connection to the city of Sedalia's water distribution system.
Final passage.
Second.
Roll call?
Oldham.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
August.
Yes.
Hiller.
Yes.
Cross.
Yes.
Foster.
Yes.
Bliss.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
All in favor.
The third item I have tonight is ordinances for the permanent and temporary easements for storm drainage improvements. This item will consist of 4 ordinances. And this is an ordinance for 4 project areas. The item is ranked number 2 in our strategic planning process. And these are areas that will consist of areas on 16th Street, Main Street, Spring Street, Liberty Park Boulevard, and a few others.
Any council discussion? Seeing none, call for the ordinance, please.
Bill number 2023-116, an ordinance accepting temporary construction easements relating to storm drainage improvements project area 2.
Second reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Bill number 2023-116, an ordinance accepting temporary construction easements relating to storm drainage improvements project area 2.
Final passage.
Second.
Roll call?
Marshall.
Yes.
August.
Yes.
Hiller.
Yes.
Cross.
Yes.
Foster.
Yes.
Bliss.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Oldham.
Yes.
All in favor.
And I would like to call for the next ordinance, please.
Bill number 2023-117, an ordinance accepting permanent and temporary construction easements relating to storm drainage improvements project area 8.
Second reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Bill number 2023-117, An ordinance accepting permanent and temporary construction easements related to storm drainage improvements project area 8.
Final passage?
Second.
Roll call?
Bogus,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Cross,
Yes.
Foster,
Yes.
Bliss,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Bolden,
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
And I'd like to call for the reading for the third ordinance, please.
Bill number 2023-118. An ordinance accepting permanent construction easement related to storm drainage improvements project area 13.
Second reading?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Bill number 2023-118. An ordinance accepting permanent construction easement relating to storm drainage improvements project area 13.
Final passage?
Second.
Roll call?
Hiller,
Yes.
Cross,
Yes.
Foster,
Yes.
Bliss,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Oldham,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Fox.
Yes.
All in favor.
And I would like to call for the fourth ordinance reading.
Bill number 2023-119. An ordinance accepting temporary construction easements relating to storm drainage improvements project area 14.
Second reading?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Bill number 2023-119. An ordinance accepting temporary construction easements relating to storm drainage improvements project area 14.
Final passage?
Second.
Roll call?
Cross,
Yes.
Foster,
Yes.
Bliss,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Oldham,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Bogus,
Yes.
Hiller.
Yes.
All in favor.
The fourth item I have tonight is an amendment and an agreement. Well number 11 has failed, and we need to approve of the budget amendment and, for the repairs.
Any council discussion? Seeing none, call for the resolution.
Resolution 2032, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Sedalia, Missouri, stating facts and reasons for the necessity to amend and increase the city's annual budget for fiscal year 2024.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Call for the ordinance, please.
Bill number 2023-120, an ordinance amending the budget for the fiscal year 2023-2024 regarding water well number 11 regas.
Second reading?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Bill number 2023-120, an ordinance amending the budget for the fiscal year 2023-2024 regarding water well number 11 regas.
Final passage?
Second.
Roll call?
Foster,
Yes.
Bliss,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Oldham,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
August,
Yes.
Hiller,
Yes.
Cross.
Yes.
All in favor.
And call for the reading of the second ordinance, please.
Bill number 2023-121, an ordinance authorizing agreement for rehabilitation services at water well number 11.
Second reading?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Bill number 2023-121, an ordinance authorizing an agreement for rehabilitation services at water well number 11.
Final passage?
Second.
Roll call?
Bliss,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Oldham,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
August,
Yes.
Hiller,
Yes.
Cross,
Yes.
Foster.
Yes.
All in favor.
Fourth item I have tonight is regarding water treatment chemicals and will also consist of two ordinances. The Water Department uses a combination of chemicals in the treatment of our drinking water. The procurement of these chemicals was last bid out in 2018, and all opportunities for extensions have since expired. Therefore, staff sought out new bids and received two sets of bids. The low bid for sodium hypochlorite was from Hawkins Incorporated, and the low bids for hydrofluorosilicic acid and ammonium hydroxide were from Brentag Mid-South Incorporated. The staff recommends award the low bidder for each chemical. I normally like to summarize those things, but I felt it need to express what chemicals we were actually using.
Thank you. Is there any council discussion? Call for the ordinance, please.
Bill number 2023-122, an ordinance approving and accepting a bid and agreement for the purchase of sodium hypochlorite to be utilized by the Sedalia Water Department.
Second reading?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Bill number 2023-122, an ordinance approving and accepting a bid and agreement for the purchase of sodium hypochlorite to be utilized by the Sedalia Water Department.
Final passage.
Second.
Roll call?
Robinson?
Yes.
Oldham?
Yes.
Marshall?
Yes.
Bogus?
Yes.
Hiller?
Yes.
Cross?
Yes.
Foster?
Yes.
Bliss?
Yes.
All in favor.
I'd like to call for the next ordinance, please.
Bill number 2023-123. An ordinance approving and accepting bids and agreements for the purchase of ammonium hydroxide and hydrofluosilicic acid to be utilized by the Sedalia Water Department.
Second reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Bill number 2023-123. An ordinance approving and accepting bids and agreements for the purchase of ammonium hydroxide and hydrofluosilicic acid to be utilized by the Sedalia Water Department.
Final passage.
Second.
Roll call?
Oldham?
Yes.
Marshall?
Yes.
Bogus?
Yes.
Hiller? Yes. Cross?
Yes.
Foster?
Yes.
Bliss?
Yes.
Robbins?
Yes.
All in favor.
I
Good
think
job,
that's caused enough excitement for tonight, so I'll pass it along.
Great job on saying those words, guys. I'm proud of you. That's hard to be on the spot and do that, so I'm very proud of you. Okay, the next item we have is public safety, and I'd like to call on Chairman Robinson, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to ask Chief to come up and address, this is an ordinance amending, part of the fire code having to do with, regarding surfaces around the large buildings.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The ordinance that is presented in front of you this evening is really a clarification ordinance. I sent you all a letter. I hope you got that. Basically, we use the 2015 IAFC. Here it is right here, Code and Commentary. Part of the commentary on fire access roads is that the City of Sedalia Fire Department requests that our fire department access roads be either concrete or gravel, or concrete or asphalt. In the fire code, under the commentary, and this is the commentary from the people that actually wrote the code, the term all-weather driving capabilities would typically require some type of pavement or hard surface. Gravel would be prone to problem areas subject to heavy rain or snowy climates where plowing could reduce the roadbed to mud very quickly. You all know in Missouri we get a lot of snow and we get a lot of water. So basically what we're asking for is the ordinance, and I think you all have it in front of you, that basically says that the City of Sedalia Fire Department would prefer asphalt to concrete. The very next part of that ordinance also states that if a business or a company shows that they need gravel or can show cause for gravel, it allows us to write a variance. It is currently what we are doing right now. We work very hard with every business that comes into Sedalia or is improving or building or doing whatever they need to do to make sure that they get what they need and the fire department gets what we need. On a project just last week, we did the very same thing with giving a variance for gravel, but we were able to get concrete. So this ordinance basically is asking for, the term in the fire code says hard driving surface, all-weather driving surface. So we are looking for clarification on all-weather surface from gravel versus concrete or asphalt. Whenever we have a set of building plans come in, and I apologize, Deputy Chief Shaw is out we have a house fire burning right now. So when we get code review, when we get plans to review, our very first argument is gravel versus concrete, and that our interpretation of the code is wrong. With this allows us to say, well, this is what we prefer. If you can show that we can get away with gravel, or we can use gravel to meet the needs of the fire department, to meet the needs of the business, then we would prefer concrete, asphalt, and we can use engineered gravel if the need arises. So that is what this ordinance is. It really changes nothing with how the ordinance is how we do business, because this is currently what we're doing. We are just looking for clarification on the term all-weather driving surfaces. I will also note, because I found this off-street parking, section 64-155 of the city code already, for parking areas and those kind of things. Improvements of parking area, all open parking. Basically, permanent pavement materials are as follows: number 1, asphalt; number 2, Portland concrete; and number 3, any other all-weather material that are approved by the Public Works Director. This is basically the same thing we're asking for fire access roads that we're currently already using for our businesses when they put in driveways and parking areas. That's all I got.
Any questions, Mr. Blue? So
Can I interrupt you one moment, please? I just want to state that after we ask questions of him, then we're going to take a chance or time to let the audience speak. Then we'll come back and have more of a council discussion, okay? Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page before we get going with this. Thank you.
So, I've expressed my, I've got a background in codes, and I want to say that I've tried to respectfully say that, we don't need this clarification. I believe that what we have currently is precisely, what happened. It resulted in the last time we had this issue, the proper resolution. If we put this in the ordinance, it doesn't change anything. Other than I want to make sure we read the ordinance, and I don't like a little bit of the language. The amendment says, fire apparatus roads shall be designed and maintained to support the imposed loads for fire. Oh, that's the all-weather driving portion, and then it says, for the purposes of this section, all-weather driving capability shall mean, for Sedalia's climate, a hard surface such as asphalt or concrete. All right, shall is a strong legal word. That basically, in my mind, is going to make people that read this ordinance understand that gravel's, at the very least, of something they have to talk with the chief with. But we need none of this. This ordinance is going to not change how anything is done. We don't need that clarification. I would rather have our fire people doing a case-by-case analysis of each situation and making a decision that is first primarily based on safety, but also based on working with an engineer or a professional that would certify that road as an all-weather road capable of doing everything that the fire department needs. That's what we have now. It's just a little bit more difficult to administer because we have to work with an engineer, we have to work with an architect, and occasionally we get a situation where all the documents aren't done, all the construction process hasn't been filled out, and people get in a hurry. That's uncomfortable, doesn't work well. But if we add this, my primary concern is that we are going to lose chances for economic development without ever even knowing about it. And I really think that, and I'm the one that sounded the alarm, and I think there's a number of people here tonight, at least on my behalf, or because of me, and I agree completely with Mayor Foster. At this point in time, if we could move at least a part of the public comment section up so that they could address the council before we vote on this, I think that's the proper thing to do.
Chief?
Sir.
How do you feel about case by case?
So that's currently what we're doing now, is we take everything case by case. It wouldn't change anything. All it would say is that for the purpose of the City of Sedalia Fire Department and the City of Sedalia as a whole, for the term of all-weather driving surfaces and hard weather surfaces, that should be concrete or asphalt. There's specific clauses in it that are written into the fire code and written into this ordinance that say that if you need concrete or you need gravel for any specific reason, then we can give a variance. It's by the authority that is granted to us. We do it all the time. And what we do is that if we try to make a fire access lane that somebody's going to drive a track loader over, it doesn't make much sense to put concrete there because they're going to tear it all up anyway. So we make variances for that. The problem is that every time that we have a set of building plans come in, the interpretation of the fire code where it says all-weather driving surface, where we want concrete to be, the engineers come back and go, well, I can build a gravel road, engineered gravel road to meet or exceed concrete. The question is that how does that gravel road perform in 20, 50, 80 years when we're going to have it. So what we're asking for is that concrete or asphalt be used, where we can then give a variance if engineered gravel will work. And it will allow us to put concrete areas where we need them for aerial fire apparatus attack or engines to work off of. We do it on a normal business day. What it does is it removes the argument from the first argument that we have is gravel versus asphalt because of all-weather term, of that all-weather term. And this just clarifies that into making all-weather is hard surface, concrete or asphalt. But if you can prove or we can show that deemed necessary that we need engineered gravel, pavers, they even make a geogrid that goes over grass. Those things can be considered. It's just not the first thing that we're gonna take into consideration when approving building plans.
So, if you're doing case by case, if you have a company coming in and there's a nice flat surface versus a hilly surface, then you're gonna have to kind of change things.
Well, fire access roads have to meet a specific grade. They can't be angled or too deep. They have to meet specific grades and levelness of the access road already.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Council, do you have any more questions for the chief at this moment? Okay. Well, I will now take public comment. If anyone would like to step to the podium and please state your name and your address, and you'll be given 3 minutes to speak. Going on?
Thank you. My name is David Goodson. My address is 1640 Hedge Apple Drive. Thank you guys for being here and letting us come talk to you about this. This is a concern for a cost standpoint. We look at things from a practical sense. The county responds to fires every day in the county driving at speed on gravel roads, and I don't think they have any problems. The city, when they're on site, we're looking at a slower speed responding or maneuvering around a fire site. This adds a tremendous amount of cost, and as we go above and beyond what really should be there, we're really going to hurt development. We're going to keep people from building. It's a huge cost. In my case, we were able to talk with the chief. We worked out a plan that's going to work, and I appreciate him doing that. But at the end of the day, our options were, it's still an extra $15,000, $18,000 to spend it, which is way better than the hundreds of thousands of dollars we were forced to look at. So, I'd urge you guys to look at this. All surface gravel can be built, engineered, and I think it should be engineered properly. But gravel can be built to withstand what we need. And when you're looking at the size of some of these facilities that possibly could be relocating, the cost is huge. And I would just urge you guys to be pro-business. I appreciate Rihanna's comments the other day at our groundbreaking. But and I really felt she meant every word she said. But the feeling of that is not the same that I think developers or builders get when they start through that process. And I would just urge our city, and I'm born and raised here, I love Sedalia, it's home. Want to see it be successful. So I would urge you guys to truly look at the cost involved here and truly look at, does it work? Gravel works, and we know it works. We know it'll suffice. But I don't know that can qualify you how to write an ordinance or how to reword the ordinance. Not here. I just really want to voice my opinion that I think you guys should really look at the gravel on these fire access roads. I think they'll suffice, and they will certainly lower cost and hopefully bring us more development, not stop development. So thank you for your time. I appreciate you considering it. And again, I think it seems like such a simple thing. We're talking about gravel or all weather, a couple words, but they are huge when you're starting to develop a facility. So thank you guys for letting me talk to you for a few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Is there
Mayor
anyone else who would like to speak?
Mayor Foster, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, when it's appropriate, I'm calling in. I would like to speak. Thank you.
Okay. Can you guys understand that?
Yes.
Okay, Brian, are you ready to speak? Sorry, I was having a hard time hearing you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now? Fine?
Yes, that's much better. Thank you.
Okay. There's a gentleman at the podium. I don't want to interrupt him, but so you mentioned at the outset that there would be no dialogue, but is it possible for us to ask a couple of questions?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I can't understand him.
Shoot.
Talk into your mic, Brian.
When you move back, we have a really hard time understanding you. I'm sorry.
Well, I'll try this. And
There you go.
That's a lot better. Thank you.
okay, I'm so sorry. So I know you indicated at the outset that we engage in a dialogue, but is it possible to ask a couple of questions?
Yes, okay.
Yes, but can you please state your name and your address for the record, please?
Yes, ma'am, I will. Brian Smith, my address is 1570 North Edgeapple, Sedalia. I do own several companies here in Sedalia. As many of you know, just completed the renovation of the trust building to house our offices in. And much of that was based on the opportunities for expansion in Sedalia with the rail industrial park. And we of course, would like to see that investment pay off with additional business in the rail park, as everybody on the council would, and attendance in the meeting. So my question is really for the fire, for this. Is there a record of access? Has there been fires they haven't been able to approach? What's precipitated this in the first place?
I think he said what the.
I think his question was something to the effect of, is there a record of fires that we haven't been able to approach?
The ABM fire off of lost the street. South Boonville was a manufacturing facility over there, did not have an access road. Specifically, we beached a fire truck in the front yard, in the front area of that building where we couldn't gain access to the back of the building. And we ended up having to tow that truck out, bent the frame. It was a mess. There is one other, but it has escaped me, but I can get the other fire for you as well. I believe I mentioned it to you, Mr. Shaw, in an email for that. But yes, we have had instances where we couldn't access the back of or sides of buildings because of no fire access road.
Right, and that would make sense. But you're indicating in this, by requesting the ordinance, that you can't access the building on a gravel fire road. You're wanting something that's in addition to that. And the code is pretty clear that it has to be an all-weather road. The city requires a civil engineer do the design work for that road. And so if an engineer has done the calculation, you're indicating would not accept the engineer's recommendation or the engineer's design?
So currently, the city of Sedalia has 4 gravel access roads. Deep Manufacturing, Gitsville Transfer, area at Nucor, and now Impact Signs are the only areas that we have that don't have concrete or asphalt. So being able to tell you that we can access, we have not had fires at those facilities, so I couldn't give you we haven't been able to access it.
Do you know of any incidents outside of Sedalia in the state of Missouri or nationwide where a gravel fire road has not been sufficient?
No, I do not.
So one of the things that we do is to consult with companies on relocations and expansions. We just reviewed 4 different sites for a company in Dallas, Fort Worth. Part of what goes into that evaluation is not only labor costs and construction costs and building utilities, but part of what goes into that evaluation, what is it like to work with the municipalities? Are there any extraordinary code requirements or local ordinances that go above and beyond what the standard code requires? This, I have to agree with Councilman Bliss. If I'm on an evaluation assignment and I'm looking at Sedalia versus North Carolina or any place that is abiding by the code instead of supplementing the code, causing additional costs to be incurred on the expansion, as a consultant, we're going to recommend that they take the path of least resistance, and Sedalia will lose out if that's the case. My real concern here is that the fire department is ignoring the calculations of a lead engineer and indicating that they believe that the engineer is incorrect when he tells you he's designed a gravel drive that will support the fire department's equipment. And that to me is dangerous ground, right? When does that stop? Does somebody then go and say, we don't think your foundation design is adequate for this building. We don't think the anchor bolts that you specified are adequate. We don't believe that the columns that you designed for your building are adequate because we want something more. The code actually is incredibly well written by very bright people to protect both municipalities from shoddy buildings and to protect business owners from, let's just say, opinions that may not be based in mathematical fact. So I like David, would urge the council to very, very strongly consider keeping the code in place as written. The International Fire Code, the International Building Code, by definition in the name, is not written for Sedalia or for Missouri, and they are adopted across the entire nation with very few exceptions. Miami-Dade County has their own code. There are certain places in the state of California that have their code, and New York, places that have excessively high costs. I would really hate, like David, I was raised here, I would really hate to be put at a disadvantage by an expansion to Nucor or an expansion to any of these facilities in Sedalia when compared to another city that is staying with the standard code.
Excuse me, Brian.
Yes.
You can't run the timer while you speak. You've gone well over your 3 minutes. I'm sorry. We're going to have to move on to the next person. Thank you very much for your input. We appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
We're ready for the next.
Hi, I'm Rick Ball, owner of Rick Ball Ford Lincoln here in Boonville, and we are in the drawing plans and planning on building 1 to 2 more buildings in Boonville, and in Sedalia, and we this would put more doubt into that because of the costs involved. And we would automatically assume that we would be required to have the asphalt or the concrete, and it seems a little bit open-ended, and we don't, at people's discretion rather than what the ordinance actually says. It's open-ended, and we'd like to be able to make plans and do things and know what our upfront costs are. And it puts us in a position thinking that we're going to have to do the asphalt or the concrete. And,
excuse me, I'm sorry. Could I get your address, please? You didn't say that.
2505 West Broadway.
Thank you.
And, well, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Steve Ditzfeld, Ditzfeld Transfer, 27264 Prairie Road, Sedalia, Missouri. I can tell you that Ditzfeld Transfer wouldn't be here today if we had to pour concrete around every building that we own out there. Roughly 650,000 square feet total that we own in Sedalia. We just purchased another 52 acres on the 65 and HH that we're looking at building some more there. And as far as what the captain said about or the chief said about the concrete road, I've replaced plenty of concrete. It doesn't last any longer than gravel. So an engineered gravel road will last just as long as the concrete. And asphalt is an absolute no way in the world that that's going to hold up to an 80,000-pound fire vehicle. We operate 80,000-pound tractor trailers over gravel parking lots all the time that B&P have built for us. We have very minimal problems with that. And during the winter time, I can tell you I'd rather have a truck on gravel than I would on concrete because you at least catch something. The problem that you have in building all this is you're going to detour. We've had a couple people come talk to us already on the 52 acres out there, and inflation has drove them away. And if we add hundreds of thousands of dollars to a building project for them, it's definitely going to drive them away. And if you want to end the progress that we've made in Sedalia in the last few years, that's where we're headed for. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's David Curry. I live at 5045 Locust Lane here in Sedalia. First of all, I'd like to say that, in my opinion, we have the finest police and fire departments of anybody in the state of Missouri. So I want that to be said up front. It's my belief that doing this ordinance, passing this ordinance that you're discussing tonight, would be detrimental to our bringing in new industry and new business. And it's my opinion that I'd like to see the council table this so that the citizens can have some input, because I didn't know about it, that this was going to happen until 4 hours ago. So the citizens aren't having the chance to look at it at all. And I think it would behoove us, you, to table this and give them a couple of weeks to digest this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Council, my name is Diane Simon. I'm here representing the Thompson Corporations. I am on the board and have worked for a few years. We don't actually develop the properties, but I will not all of the properties that we have. We sell them to people. The cost of doing business in Sedalia, Missouri is very high. We did recently build the VA clinic. It cost us $700,000 more than it should have. Now, that's not your fault. That was inflation. That was COVID. Wrong time of the season to be doing anything like that. But an additional cost for going hard surface instead of gravel could have, if we'd had to do that with that building, for example, could have ended things. The engineering, and I'm sorry, engineer and architects, but engineering and architect costs are a lot. And you're adding on to more engineering costs and the cost of retention, and making it hard surface instead of a porous surface, again, adds to the cost of that retention also. So there's more to it than just the cost of that surface.
Oh, excuse me, ma'am. You didn't state your address. Could you get your address for the record, please?
I'm sorry. I'm from Cole Camp. I live in Cole Camp. I own property in Sedalia, and our address for work is 906 Thompson Boulevard.
Thank you.
So I agree with everything that was said. The asphalt that Steve brought up, asphalt doesn't hold up. Look at the shopping center lot. Look at Walmart lot. Asphalt does not hold up, and we are trying. We're going slowly to concrete. I think you can see that with what we've done in the shopping center. But asphalt's not going to hold up better than a gravel road. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Yes, sir.
I just like to add one more thing. Everybody's talking, and they probably want to talk again. We keep talking about the driving portion of people driving on the roadway. What I'm also talking about is that I am setting up a 81,000-pound ladder truck that is going to be flowing thousands of gallons of water for God knows how long. I'm curious, and the engineer, somebody was on the internet, I'd like to know how long his gravel will hold up if it's flooded, or it's moving water over it as well. So it's not just the driving from around a building, it is setting up, operating setting out our outriggers, that have to basically carry 43,000 pounds per outrigger. There's 4 of them. So they carry a 2x2 square, window that they sit on, which raises the entire truck up. That aerial apparatus goes 101 feet with 2 people generally in the bucket of that truck flowing thousands of gallons of water out of it, on top of everything else that's going on that fire scene as well. So it's not necessarily just driving around and can it hold the truck to drive around. The truck also has to operate on it as well.
As a safety engineer, I'll address that. It's not a static situation when you're fighting a fire. And I'm not telling you how to fight fires, but from a safety standpoint, I would hope there's somebody on the ground spotting that truck and watching it, so that as that water flows and starts to erode, that second person, surely that person in the aerial is not the only person involved with that truck. And there's staff that are watching that situation and warning that individual and changing it if it occurs. You know, is that, how does it occur as we fight a fire and we've got somebody?
So if we have a large scale operation going, people in the bucket, crews working other engines, you have an incident commander, there isn't anybody available just to sit and watch the deterioration of a roadway under an apparatus. It's set and it's gone. I mean, we go and we fight. I would have to dedicate somebody then to sit there and watch that roadway if I understood how you wanted me to do it.
No, I'm not trying to say, I'm asking you the question.
Yeah,
from a crane standpoint, when we operate cranes, I can't talk about cranes. As we operate cranes and we put the outriggers out, if we've got an operation that's going on for an extended period of time, we watch that outrigger, we check it for level, we do all these other things. There is a second person. Let's do it like this. If it's an OSHA lift and a person's in the bucket, Chief, it's called a critical lift. If it's a critical lift, they plan it in advance and they have spotters. To me, a person in that aerial lift blowing water is a critical lift. It's not a crane, but it's critical. And I have all the confidence in the world in you. Don't get me wrong. I know that you'll keep them safe, and their safety is the top priority for me. And I said that at the onset. But we kind of get ourselves into these red herrings that we as a group here tonight have to make a decision about building, to me personally, we have to make a decision about essentially building economics. Building economics is nobody's got an unlimited budget with a building. And the second thing about building economics is we have to make trade-offs with regard to safety, for example. If I've got somebody on a ladder and I've got a broken rung on the ladder, that's low-hanging fruit. That's a very dangerous situation, and it's very inexpensive to fix. So I'm going to do that one. But at the same time, if I've got to put somebody in a position, in a much more precarious position where I may have to put nets underneath them and do all those other things, it's still very dangerous, but it's also more expensive. Mm-hmm. I have to make a decision as to whether or not I'm going to put a net underneath them, or I'm going to use a man lift, or find the most economical thing. And to me, that's what we're doing tonight. That's all I wanted to try to generate tonight.
And I understand the cost imposed and the projected costs of what going to concrete or asphalt to be. I understand that. The problem is for me to equally and fairly enforce the fire code, I can't make my determination based on cost. I can't even determine that, because it doesn't help the large companies versus our small companies versus our little homegrown businesses. You know, we were here just a few months ago over Knox boxes because we were enforcing the code unilaterally and fairly amongst all people. So I can't make a determination, or I don't make a determination on whether or not we want concrete versus engineered gravel simply based on a cost. So I can't do that. I can't make a determination based on cost. What I can make a determination on is that looking at the fire code, what best serves the business and what best serves the fire department to work both in a safe environment. Listen, these access roads, I hope we never, ever have to use them. And Mr. Goodson, I apologize. I hope we never have to use the concrete that we've encouraged for you. But where places like Newport, where we put concrete pads there, at some point, somebody's going to say, well, let's make those out of engineered gravel. Let's do this. Let's do that. And then if we get to the point to where we're making everything out of gravel. And I'm just not comfortable with that. I really am not. So I can't look at what the cost of anything is going to be, because then I become unfair to your business versus somebody else's business. So all I'm asking is that to remove the argument and say, this is what we want. We're willing to go to this if we can show cause, which is what we did with Mr. Goodson. You know, we were talking almost 400 feet of concrete that wasn't going to be needed necessarily, but we got where we needed to be fair and equitable for both the fire department to meet my needs for fire safety while working on a fire ground if it's on fire, and what Mr. Goodson needed for cost effectiveness for his facility. And I don't know what the cost numbers were. I don't care what the cost numbers were, and I don't mean to be rude. It doesn't bother me what he saved or what he spent, because I have to fairly enforce the fire code for everybody. And all I'm asking with this ordinance is to remove that first argument of gravel is just a suitable thing. Bring me your building plans. An engineer can bring them in and go, hey, we understand that you want concrete, or this is what we want concrete, but we can engineer this section of it with gravel, meet your needs, and then we're okay with that. We've shown that with businesses that we've done in the past.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with everything you said, but you're doing that now. What happened with impact signs worked.
Mm-hmm.
It may be uncomfortable for you, but I want you to be in that situation where you have to go back and forth, because that means that you have to work with every engineer and every business owner and plan how you're going to fight that fire before it actually occurs.
Right.
I want you to have an emergency action plan. I also don't want our codes to go into ordinances, because codes change. We're currently using 2015, right? It could go to 2018. Not this year, not next year, but 10 or 15 years from now, a different fire chief, a different council. We're obligating another council with an ordinance, all right? But we don't obligate another, and we're taking the responsibility from you to us when we accept this ordinance, in my view. I want to leave it the way it is, simply because I think it's not broke and we don't need to fix it. And I am a person, I don't want to get into a diatribe right here about prescriptive codes and performance codes. It would turn into one of my classes and everybody would go to sleep. But I truly, from the bottom of my heart, believe we're making a mistake taking a performance code, which is what, when we say it's a weather, how's it saying, sir? I'm sorry.
All-weather hard surface.
All-weather hard surface. We're taking that. That is a performance code, which is how codes are trending, and we're going back to a prescriptive code saying it's got to be concrete or asphalt. And for me, as a experienced code person that taught it for 30 years, of an alarm, I was very rude to you in our private meeting, and I apologize. I got too wound up like I'm doing now. But to me, as someone who taught that, I knew we would, I personally thought we were going the wrong direction. But you are the authority with jurisdiction, and you have the final say, and I respect you.
And I appreciate that. But here's currently how I work, or how we work, okay? And you're right. We work with the developers, we work with the engineers, and we work with those people building buildings. But I also have to work with you and any other councilman that gets a phone call or gets this at the fire department. So I'm working with 8 different opinions plus the engineer's opinion. You see, and what I'm saying is that if this is concrete, it takes you guys out of it where you go, you got to work it out with the fire chief. There's always the Board of Appeals that if you guys can't work it out, go to the Board of Appeals. That's all I don't want to get in an argument, and I'm done.
I have a bad habit of jumping in too quick. I want you to give me permission to respond. Go ahead when you're in. Okay, so I know it's inconvenient. I know it's a pain. It doesn't feel good, but a code official has to go through that. And God bless Mr. Goodson. And sir, I apologize if I'm offensive, but a lot of people build something and they only do it 1 or 2 times, and they kind of get the cart in front of the horse, and then at the end they are worried about, and I think in this case it was financing. So the process of planning never gets done. Everybody wants to get to the building part, right? That's just part of the game. But the other thing is, David has every right to call us, and I have a responsibility to act professionally, try to, and get the public opinion and keep your people safe. But what I was trying to say, not so much about, and I'll quit, about the analysis of cost versus the probability of something occurring. I was using safety equipment as an example, but I was really trying to say that was the owners that have to make that assessment. That it's a constant assessment for the owner. Hey, I can spend $100,000 or $200,000 more on this road, or I can sprinkle it. It's a constant balancing act. We're all good people, but I want to see Sedalia grow, and I think if we do this, we're going to be outside the norm with regard to our codes, and that worries me because I'm afraid we'll never know how much business it costs us, and I would never make that decision thinking it would ever cost a fireman's life. I would never do that.
I appreciate that.
I truly mean that. But I really think we can do this, and the probabilities are so low. And if that situation does occur, your training and your practice and your emergency management plans will take care of things like the water flowing over the road and the outriggers coming out of the house. My rest.
Anybody else?
I would like to interrupt you guys for a moment, please. Do we have anyone else in the audience that would like to speak? We kind of got off. Okay, let's get back into that.
I was hoping Mike.
Okay. So, yep, you guys, you can go after.
Thanks for having us. I'm Mike Brown, have a BMP excavating here today. I've been here for 31 years. We have a large development on the north side of town. And that concrete or asphalt fire protection will kill that. I mean, asphalt will not hold up to it. Gravel will, and if it's sufficient, I've built those many times, and a gravel tar road will work. So we just ask that you give that good consideration. And I didn't give you my address. I'm in the county, 21618 Highway O, but I own different properties in Sedalia. Okay, thank you all much.
Thank you, Mike.
Hi there. Theron, Broadfoot Engineering, 30277 Carpenter Road. I just was going to speak to the point of, I think it's a hard pill for developers to swallow the cost of that, because when you build a parking lot, asphalt or concrete, it's going to service repeated traffic, day in and day out. And a fire lane is going to be there, hopefully never even used one time. And if it is, I'm an engineer, civil engineer, you can design it to withhold. It's an all-weather surface. I've got the code right here. And structurally, it needs to be able to support a 75,000-pound load. So with anything, I think there could be some, discussion and review with the fire department to say maybe it's a yearly inspection or, something to that effect to make sure that if it's a big, long building and the cost-benefit analysis, that it's not being utilized frequently enough to justify that huge cost. But you do want to do a yearly check of that condition. That would be something that I think could be reviewed. And it's a practicality thing. You want the fire truck to be able to do their job, and everybody's lives is top priority. But again, we're not doing a regular, highway that's being, repeated traffic and the complications of maintaining such a complicated route. We're talking about hopefully a loop that's never even used, so that you could go there and inspect it, and if there was something that needed to be addressed, it could be done. But it can be designed and it can be built to do the performance. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Going once? Going twice? Okay. Now, council members, we are open for our discussion. If anyone has any questions for the chief.
I got something I want to say. I'm sitting here reading this ordinance, and I want everybody sitting out there to be clear about one thing. If this ordinance passes, okay, it does not mean that it is set in stone that you have to use concrete. It does not mean you're set in stone and you have to use asphalt. What it means is you've got to work with the fire chief, like in this case with David, work with the fire chief, and he will give his okay that you can put gravel, that you can build a gravel access road. That's what this ordinance is all about. It's nothing, and I read that book that he held up. I read that fire code, and believe it or not, the way the ordinance is written is exactly the way this is written. But in their statement, by the person that wrote that code, it states this is a gray area. It's not in black and white. It's a gray area for this reason. Every case is different. Every circumstance is different. Everybody is locked and focusing on one thing. Oh God, it's got to be concrete. It's got to be, okay, if that's the case, if gravel's such great, why are we spending all this money asphalting and cementing our streets in the city of Sedalia? If we can build such a great road that is good to go up and down, why don't we make them gravel? Because it's smoother. Okay, and the only concern I have about this fire truck being set on the outriggers is and he's got that boom set out here 150 feet with the weight all on out here. The center of that truck is way out here now, over your building, putting out the fire, and it sinks and falls into that fire. We lose our firemen. We lose our equipment. Okay. So I'm just saying that the ordinance is to actually give the chief more responsibility of working with the engineers and working with the people that are wanting to invest in this community, that it's not set in stone that it's going to be, that's what he would like. If he came to you and said, yeah, I want concrete, then all you have to do is answer back, no, I can't afford that. That's not my deal. I can't afford that. My plan is not to put in concrete. My plan is to make a good, sound gravel road to hold this truck, and that's what got worked out, right, David? Isn't that what got worked out?
You know, to be honest with you, Bob, and I appreciate what you did, I don't even see the need for what we did. The concrete gravel is engineered better, and I think it has to be engineered. But, you know, we still give it a happy meeting, we're happy to come to that agreement, get it done. But to this day, we still put some concrete down. The options I was given was we put concrete on the west side, then we were good, but if we didn't, then we'd have to return down the west side of the building. A lot of it didn't make a lot of good sense to me and our engineer, but we were happy to keep it very professional, very much work with us, and I appreciate that. But at the end of the day, you know, I think just the gravel thing is sufficient, and that's what we need in the gray area. I say it's gray area. People need to know going in. It's not going to get into these projects, and not necessarily our time. You know, it's like it all comes down to we get a different outcome every time, or what you perceive as a different outcome on every project. You know, and that's why it's up to me.
But every project.
If we built this building in Columbia, or we built this building in Jefferson City, we wouldn't have no issue. We wouldn't even been a topic.
But they go by the same book that our fire chief goes by.
Right. And tonight, we all looked to go and read it on it, and I looked at the chief chair would go with interpretations to it. But the interpretation, you know, I could write one, and we all could write an interpretation.
I'm a racer, David, you know that. I'm a racer, but every racer has a gray area. Every rule you write for a race car, for a race class, has a gray area. And this is a gray area B. Okay.
We're not talking about picking up a win on Saturday night.
I'm going to interrupt you guys. I think that we need to be focused on what we're talking about. And right now, I'm asking for if there's any comment from council. Is there any more discussion from council?
I've got one other comment here, for Bob's concern. The chief is the authority with jurisdiction in this particular case, according to our ordinance. He already has the ability to work with anyone and make those things now. It's not broke, we do not need to fix it.
Any more council discussion?
I'm gonna echo Councilman Bliss. You know, I think we already have a fire code. I don't see the need, that we've adopted. I don't see the need for the ordinance. And the number one call that I get, especially over the last 6 months to a year, has been, angry calls about the difficulty to expand, to grow, and to build, because of the difficulty of either permit process or codes or whatnot. And, you know, I don't get many calls. Most of my ward are businesses, and I think everyone who spoke here tonight is in my ward. So, you know, we have a code already. I don't think we need to adopt it. I think we're doing very well. And I definitely don't want to stifle our economic development.
Any more discussion from council? Okay, well, I would like to call for the reading of the ordinance, please.
Bill number 2023-124, an ordinance amending section 24-26 of the Code of the City of Sedalia, Missouri by adding section 13 regarding surfaces to adopted fire codes.
Second reading? Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Bill number 2023-124, an ordinance amending section 24-26 of the Code of the City of Sedalia, Missouri by adding section 13 regarding surfaces to adopted fire codes.
Final passage.
30 seconds. Roll call?
Marshall. No. Bogus.
No.
Hiller.
No.
Cross. No. Foster.
Yes.
Bliss.
No.
Robinson.
Bill?
Holden.
No.
1 yes, 7 no.
The second item is public safety, maybe, and I think probably there's a little bit of a break, just a few minutes, can't remember the right term. I need to, what should we say when we need to go to the bathroom?
So you're asking us to take a recess?
Short recess, please.
I'll second.
Okay.
Thank you.
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
3 minutes.
3 minutes. 3 minutes. Start the timer. There we go. We're done.
Good, yes, sir. Okay.
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 Everybody back? All right.
We'll finish up with,
Thank you,
body
sir.
cameras from the police department.
So during my strategic plan last fall, we discussed the need to replace our body cameras. Most of them are over 5 years old, and they were not meant to last that long. So we are having a little bit of problems. Luckily, we do have some extras, so we're making sure we do have coverage. But we've reached that time that it's to replace them. We've sought out a cooperative procurement contract with Turnkey Mobile to replace it with the same company that we currently have, and we actually have got it in just slightly under budget.
Under budget being operative.
Thank you, Chief.
I'll have to slightly to it though.
Take it.
Slightly better than over.
Right. It took a little bit with inflation, but they did work with us.
Chief had to get off.
Yeah, a little bit.
Did you get all you needed?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we did. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any
All
further
good.
discussion? Full discussion? Call for the reading of the ordinance, please.
Bill number 2023-125, an ordinance approving and accepting a quote for body-worn cameras for the Sedalia Police Department.
Second reading?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Bill number 2023-125, an ordinance approving and accepting a quote for body-worn cameras for the Sedalia Police Department.
Final passage?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Bogus,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Cross,
Yes.
Foster,
Yes.
Bliss.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Oldham.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
All in favor.
And now we will move on to Finance Administration with Chairman Marshall, please.
I have two items on my report tonight. First is a call for a resolution and ordinance for a budget amendment regarding Pioneer Trails Regional Planning Commission dues. There's been much debate over the cost versus benefit of the dues paid to Pioneer Trails. The council voted to remove these dues from appropriation. Since then, the council has heard from the chair of Pioneer Trails as well as the executive director, Norman Lucas. Both have requested the council to reconsider including these dues in the budget. Mr. Lucas was helpful in securing the city's ability to continue to be qualified to receive housing and urban development funding. Mayor Dawson and staff have continued to press for more of a voice
over a year, I don't even know where to. There in the past. He feels terrible about what he did, but he's changed. He's on medication, and he's found a job in Florida. Determined to start a new life.
That's awful clean for a man that hasn't been driven in a year. I say we hold mom in for questions. I don't like to sweat no lady that offends my sense of decorum. Or you rather be looking through garbage? God's gotta do what he's gotta do. Monday, notorious to Mexico. Liquid testosterone.
Hey, get away from there! That's private.
We lost connection for a minute, so.
Okay.
I thought this was, we're good now, again, Tag? Okay.
Y'all are doing good.
Is it okay to proceed?
Still don't have audio, I'm gonna redial in.
That's a second.
This is his first night riding solo. He's doing a great job.
Yeah.
He's doing a great job.
Todd, can you hear us?
Talk to you in a minute. Yeah.
Yep, Todd can hear us. Okay,
We good to go?
I think so.
Yeah, okay. Then
Thanks,
are you finished with what you were going to say? Perfect, okay. Then call for the resolution, please.
Resolution 2033, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Sedalia, Missouri, stating facts and reasons for the necessity to amend and increase the city's annual budget for fiscal year 2024.
Motion to approve, anybody?
Any motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, we will proceed
So
with
did we have one nay?
one.
Who was the name?
And, I'm sorry?
Oldham was the nay.
You ready, Jason?
Gotcha.
Okay, and I'd like to call for the ordinance, please.
2023-126, an ordinance amending the budget for the fiscal year 2023-2024 regarding Pioneer Trails Regional Planning Commission dues renewal.
Second reading.
We got a motion and second? Yes. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Bill number 2023-126, an ordinance amending the budget for the fiscal year 2023-2024 regarding Pioneer Trails Regional Planning Commission dues renewal.
Final passage. Second.
Roll call?
Hiller.
Yes.
Cross.
Yes.
Foster.
Yes.
Bliss.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Oldham.
No.
Marshall.
Yes.
Bogus.
No.
6 yes, 2 no.
Okay. Now, let's call for the next resolution, please. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry, I skipped that. I'm so sorry.
Next is call for a resolution and ordinance amending the budget regarding the finance department staffing. During the last fiscal year, we had a long-term employee in the finance department retire, while we were also going through a transition in the director position. During this time, a part-time employee was used as well as an outside firm to provide assistance. Jessica Pyle, our new finance director, has been able to assess the proper staffing structure. She recommends that we bring in another entry-level position and absorb the functions of the part-time employee and the outside firm. In the long run, this will result in a reduction in cost, but there will be an overlap in this fiscal year to hire and train new employee, as well as training the current staff on the other duties they will absorb. The total cost is $35,363.49.
Any council discussion? Call for the resolution, please.
Resolution 2034, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Sedalia, Missouri, stating facts and reasons for the necessity to amend and increase the city's annual budget for fiscal year 2024.
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Call for the ordinance, please.
Bill number 2023-127, an ordinance amending the budget for the fiscal year 2023-2024 regarding finance department staffing.
Second reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Bill number 2023-127, an ordinance amending the budget for the fiscal year 2023-2024 regarding finance department staffing.
Final passage.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Cross.
Yes.
Foster.
Yes.
Bliss.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Oldham.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
Bogus.
Yes.
Hiller.
Yes.
All in favor.
That is all I have.
Thank you very much. And next, we move on to other business. So we have a resignation. Could I please call for the reading of the resignation?
I have a resignation to members of the City Council from Mayor Andrew Dawson, Kristen Dabrowski resigning from the Sedalia Housing Authority Board effective immediately.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next, could we please have the reading of the appointment?
To members of the City Council from Mayor Andrew Dawson regarding new appointments, Animal Advisory Control Board, Dan Lowe, replacing Barbara Hayden, 3-year term expiring June 2026. And Samantha Gilpin to Sedalia Housing Authority Board of Directors, completing Christian Dabrowski's term expiring June 2026.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And next, we move on to liquor licenses.
Then we have 1 new and 7 renewals. New license for Samuel Gomez, doing business as Taqueria Santa Cruz LLC at 1629 West Main for liquor by the drink and Sunday sales. And renewals for Mary Jane Stewart, doing business as American Legion Post number 642, 2016 West Main for liquor by the drink. Honor Villalobos, doing business as Katie's Barbecue of Sedalia LLC at 1915 South Limit for liquor by the drink, Sunday sales, and beer and wine. Brad Wickstrom, doing business as Craft Beer Cellar at 700 South Ohio for liquor by the drink and sidewalk liquor consumption. Christina Moore, doing business as Casey's General Store, number 3257 at 3050 South Limit for packaged liquor and Sunday sales. Diana Green, doing business as Little Bighorn at 150 South Limit, Suite 100 for beer and wine. Crystal Sims, doing business as Woods Supermarket Incorporated, 701 East Broadway for packaged liquor and Sunday sales. And Crystal Sims, doing business as Woods Supermarket Incorporated, 1400 South Limit for packaged liquor, Sunday sales, and taste testing.
Motion to approve en bloc.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Miscellaneous items from city administrator and city council.
See everybody at the parade tomorrow.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, I would echo that and say, wish everybody a safe and happy 4th of July. We do have the parade that, begins at 10 a.m. downtown. We also have the picnic, at Centennial Park that begins at 11 to 1. And then, veterans, swim free, and everybody else gets in at half price at Centennial Pool from 11 to 5. And then the only fireworks that are allowed in town, because of our ordinance, is by permit only. And we have taken some extra precautions, particularly this year because of the drought situation. But those will be going on at the fairgrounds at 9:30 p.m. And I don't know if Chief, if there's anything to add to that as far as the precautions. I mean,
Don't shoot any fireworks at the parking lot, please.
Please,
Yeah.
no fireworks. Just come and watch. Don't shoot your own, please.
yeah, particularly in the grass around the car.
Yeah, particularly in the grass.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything?
I just want to add, I was a little bit worried after the rain. I had not heard any fireworks until after the rain, and in the night, I actually went down to 1914 South Osage, and a guy was shooting fireworks, and I told him, hey, there's an ordinance against that. He looked at me and said, really? and he did put them up, so.
Come in my neighborhood, it ain't happening.
Still do it.
Do they really?
Oh, yeah, it'll happen.
Okay, so let's move on to good and welfare. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Seeing none?
Motion moved to closed door session
Well,
for
we
legal advice.
don't have a closed door session. So I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Oh,
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Third, fourth, fifth.
We're out of here. Roll call, please. We need roll call for that? No?
Nope.
Oh, no, that's a closed session thing. I'm so sorry. I'm so used to having a closed session. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful night.
Thanks, Todd.
Thank you, Todd.
Really?
Yes.